Today I rise in support of every American being negatively affected by inflation caused by President Biden and congressional Democrats' reckless spending policies over the last year. Inflation isn't something that happens overnight. It occurs as a direct result of the bills passed right here in this body and the President's executive actions. Since President Biden stepped foot in the Oval Office and Democrats gained control of both branches of Congress, their actions have directly resulted in the highest inflation levels in 40 years, since the year I was a junior in high school. I recall when President Biden and congressional Democrats' first legislative priority was a $1.9 trillion bill disguised as COVID relief. But in reality, only 9% of the funds went directly to combating the COVID-19 pandemic. Instead, it was a progressive wish list of socialist ideas designed to transform American society from one of capitalism to socialism. Even the White House called it the most progressive piece of legislation in the history of the United States. After that, Democrats wasted the entire legislative year using the budget reconciliation process to bypass the Senate filibuster and to pass their so-called infrastructure bill, which was in reality another piece of legislation costing more than $1 trillion that builds more debt than it builds bridges or roads. When the bill passed the House, inflation was already on the rise, and gas prices had increased over 50% over the prior year. Instead of addressing these issues before they got out of hand, Democrats have used their political capital in an attempt to reshape the very fabric of our society and take another giant leap towards the United States becoming another socialist country. As a consequence, the cost of everything has continued to rise while inflation rages with reckless abandon and no end in sight. Unfortunately, the madness does not end there. Despite already passing two bills with price tags over $1 trillion, President Biden and congressional Democrats saved the worst of all for last. Their Build Back Broke bill that was thankfully defeated in the Senate but would have added a staggering $5 trillion in new spending. In just 1 year, House Democrats passed legislation equating to almost $10 trillion, which unbelievably amounts to a full 1/3 of the current U.S. national debt. They acted like kids in a candy store with their parents' credit card, but in reality their actions are even worse than that, because in this case they are actually using their children's and grandchildren's and great-grandchildren's credit card, and even though they have more than maxed out the credit card, new purchases are never declined. Economists warned of an impending recession as we got closer to reaching the debt limit last year. America's fiscal house was flooding, and the Democrats chose to raise the roof rather than stop the flooding. On a party-line vote, Democrats voted to impose the largest nominal increase in the debt cap in the history of our country, and in doing so, once again, denied all reality that their out-of-control spending would directly result in inflation, the steep and cruel tax levied on all Americans. You would think that after passing so many spending bills in the trillions of dollars that they would be able to pass a standard government funding bill, but you would be wrong. Congressional Democrats and President Biden have not achieved this once. In fact, we are already almost halfway through the current fiscal year, and in an ironic twist, are still operating under the spending priorities of President Donald Trump. That is until the House votes on the Democratic appropriations bills tomorrow, which we have yet to read and will likely cost taxpayers additional trillions of dollars. Trillions of dollars spent, and what do we have to show for it? Higher prices on everything, real wages for all Americans declining, and an economy independent or dependent, that is, on government expenditures. We're getting exactly what President Biden and congressional Democrats want: socialism. These are not the ideals on which America was founded. Every step they take diminishes capitalism. the engine of our economy and the engine of our standard of living, and it also diminishes freedom, the engine of our national soul. But regrettably, that is President Biden's America. The fact of the matter is that President Biden's administration will stop at nothing to satisfy their far left base.
Gentleman's time has expired.
Thank you. Now yield back.